Hey, so this is probably going to be my third and last video that I make for you at the moment, as they have been kind of lengthy. But briefly going to go over a lot of, by a lot I mean all of the units, and kind of give you a breakdown and some tips and tricks with them when you see them, what to be worried about, or if you're looking at them and considering building them, some interesting builds. So I'm going to start off with Sirmia. It's a fire hero. So Sirmia, her big trick is that she uses her S2, which gives her greater attack buff, and I think it also has a chance to, it resets her S3, which is a giant nuke that just ignores half of their defense. So basically, you just make Sirmia fast, you make her deal damage, and then she one-shot someone, and then you can have her S2 reset her S3 and one-shot someone else. So typically, she's kind of a one-trick pony, but she deals a lot of single attack damage, and for that, she's really good for it. Uh, yeah, she's not the best unit, but she has a place, and she does it very well. Moving on, Edward. He is currently the limited unit. He's really good at taking debuffs and just turning them off, and then counterattacking and giving out debuffs. He's also an HP scaling unit, so you can make him incredibly tanky. He's actually pretty decent. I would recommend him for a newer player. Uh, he can mess up some builds, and he has counterattack options just built into his kit. You could probably put a Sigurd Scythe on him and make him rather survivable, and he's just kind of fun. He looks cool, he's enjoyable. That's really all I gotta say about him. You won't see Holiday Euphine a lot, but she's actually a character that I really like, and she is a character that was made to counter, at the time, Bazaar, because, or not Bazaar, Bazaar, because at the time Bazaar would be the mage that would go first, because you just get him super, super fast, and then he just CR pushes the entire team down and debuffs them, so that way they can't get buffs, so they can't have immunity or anything like that. What Holiday Euphine does is she has an innate 50% chance to be missed, so she gains evasion when she's at max health. She then, since she's red, she has that additional 50% chance to get missed by green units. So Bazaar, being a green mage, couldn't touch her, and which was really relevant for her because her S3, she would just basically go right after Bazaar, and she would say, hey, I'm going to boost up all my teammates back up to where they were pushed down. I forgot her. The other part of her S2 is it reduces how much her allies are pushed down. So basically a complete just counter Bazaar. Uh, but now that Bazaar isn't as relevant, you shouldn't see him really anywhere ever. Uh, what she also does is she gives increased attack to your team. So it's a good little push. Oh wait. Yeah, increases the attack of all allies for 2 turns and combat readiness by 20%. So she's a pusher. She will push your team, so having her fast and then just pushing your team up is always relevant. Her S1 will also attack all of the enemy team, and it will apply burn to the enemy team. So really common thing with that is that you push and then you just apply burn to the other team. She's a good unit. I would recommend her if you get a chance to get her. She is a limited unit, but she's good. Hyung. I hate this unit. She is so freaking good and incredibly just art is on point for her. I didn't know I liked Chinese dresses until I saw this character. Just great, fantastic character. Uh, her S2 makes it so she can't critically hit anyone, but also increases her max attack by a ridiculous amount. So she loses crit, but she just deals an insane amount of damage that if she could crit, it would just be ridiculous. She also deals more damage if the person she's attacking has more health than her. So you just give her just straight attack. She gets like 7,000 attack, and she just nukes someone. Oh, but she also has survivability because she gains a barrier that scales off of her attack. She's really well designed. She does a lot of damage. She's top tier. She's really good. She's an issue. She's great. She basically just one-shots someone each turn and then survives. Jacko. You might see her every once in a while. She is not the best unit, but she's got plot, and people like that. She also does have some unique abilities that are decent. Like her S2 gives the unit in the back slot, so the slot on the left, a buff. And what that buff does is give stun chance, which is really nice if you put it on a unit that strips buffs from the enemy team, and then it stuns them. So that's really nice. Her S3 will give her an extra turn if she kills a unit. She also gains CR if someone gets debuffed or stunned. I forget which, but it's good. So she gets an extra turn if she kills someone for S3. It's a pretty good nuke, so she should kill someone. Her S1 deals 2 attacks if it attacks someone who is debuffed. So typically you have someone on her team set her up by stunning someone or the entire team. Then she jumps to the top, she kills someone, then she S1s them and attacks them twice because her S1 attacks twice as long as they are debuffed. So she'll kill 2 people, and then her S1 lets her be stealth, so she can't be attacked back. So she's pretty good. She's not the best, but she has a place, and she's pretty good. You'll never see it, Ken, so we're not going to talk about him. Ravi. Her big gimmick is she gains stacks of demon blood or fighting spirit whenever she is hit. And when she has enough of it, she has a giant AoE that stuns and pushes back the enemy team. That S3 is brutal. You put a Sigrid Scythe on her, and she just destroys the world. She's really good. Soul, you'll never see. Cecilia's a tank that's actually really good that you'll never see because there's just better options out there. Her big gimmick is that she gives herself a really good barrier and gives her entire team immunity, and then provokes the enemy team. She also has another AoE that decreases their attack, which is just really good. She also has a defense break. She's got a loaded kit. She should see more play, but people are sleeping on her, honestly. Charlotte. She deals AoE damage like crazy. Whenever you hit her, she gains 2 buffs. Attack increase and defense increase. And whenever she is buffed, her S1 turns into an AoE attack. Her S3 always crits, which makes it so she's easier to build. She's a really good unit. Ilyanov. So she is an interesting unit. I don't think she's top tier, but you can definitely build her and have fun. So her S3 will give your team this increased critical hit damage, which is a rare buff, but a really strong buff. And it'll also give her immunity. So it's a really good buff that you can have for your entire team. Her S2 is her main attack that she will be doing, and it does a good amount of injury. And injury is that debuff that I was talking to you about a little bit ago, where it prevents their max health from going back up to their max health. So it just reduces their total max health, which is really good against Soul or not soul, against lifesteal units. Highly recommend it. It's really nice. Her S1 has a chance of just being an S2, so that's pretty nice. So she's pretty good. She's overshadowed a lot. Not top. She's not the top. Regular Lilius. She is really good. You will see her on occasion. She's another unit that hasn't scaled as well. Cool things about her. Her S3 will cleanse your entire team of debuffs, which is really, really nice. On top of that, it doesn't scale off of her stats, but off of the highest attack unit on your team. So pair her with Hayoung, and her attack is now being scaled off of Hayoung's stats. Oh, and by the way, Lilius crits. It's good. On top of that, her S1 will randomly pull someone to dual attack with her. So you just RNG pull your Hayoung with her when she attacks. It's pretty good. She's really good. You don't see her as much, but she is an incredibly strong unit. Haste. People want him to be good, he's just not. Don't worry about him. Kayron. He was my strongest unit when I was new. I love him. He just hasn't scaled well. His big gimmick is that when he takes lethal damage, he gains not invulnerability, but immortality. He becomes immortal. So essentially, his health can't become 0, it's just 1. And he scales off his health being low. So essentially, you just build him with effective resistance, and they can't debuff him. He eventually hits 0 HP, and then he just cleaves their team. His S3 resets when he gains immortality, and it's a one-shot attack where it targets one enemy, and if it kills that enemy, he refreshes his buffs on him, so they go up by 1. So his immortality goes up by 1. He gains an attack buff, and he just cleaves the enemy team with his S1, which is an AoE attack. ER, counterattack, Dust Devil work really, really well with him. He just hasn't scaled well. I don't expect you'll run into Kana very often. She scales off of being a dual attack unit. She's just, you're not going to see her. She's just straight damage. Elfelt. You will never see this unit. Again, she's got plot. People really like her. Her whole gimmick is she shoots one unit and puts them to sleep and increase defense. What sleep does is it's essentially a stun, but the next time that they get hit, it goes away, but the attack is a guaranteed crit. She puts that unit to sleep, takes an extra turn. She then kills one of the units that she put to sleep, the only unit she put to sleep, and it puts a decreased defense on the other troops on the team. So she essentially just kills one person, and then defense breaks them. She's an okay unit. You won't see her very often, though. She's more difficult to use than she's worth. Lytica. Same boat. Her whole deal is she reduces someone's CR to 0 and keeps them there. But you won't see her very often. You will see Summertime Assyria a lot, though. The main reason for that is her S2 triggers whenever someone on your team AoE attacks with her on the team. She then plants randomly on the enemy team. Her S3 then lets her go and detonate those bombs. Oh, on top of that, when her S2 triggers, she CR boosts her team as well as herself. So she's just really good for cleave because she CR pushes and then she blows up people. The bombs deal good damage and stun. She's pretty good. Her S1, she gets to soul burn it for free once, and it dispels 2 buffs, which is really good. You pair it with an artifact that whenever she, with her S1, it plants a bomb. So you soul burn, you dispel 2 buffs, and you plant a bomb. And then you detonate all the 3 bombs that you've planted. It feels pretty good. Also, the bomb planting is all non-hit. So if you're worried about a Violet, you just planted 2 bombs on Violet without having to hit him. And then you detonate them and he's just gone. I really like it when Violet's just gone. So she's good. That you're not going to see. Ball, you're not going to see. Cowrick, you shouldn't see. Melissa, she's a lot like Elfelt, so you're probably not going to see her. Milim, you might run into Milim. Her gimmick is when she attacks, she gains Dragon Eye, and she'll gain increased attack. So you put on Taiga Hall's book on her, so that way you can soul burn, take an extra turn, you get increased attack, and you get Milim's Dragon Eye. So you gain hit chance and evasion, and then when you S3 someone, you extinct them so they can't be revived. This is really good at killing Arbiter Vildred, as even the artifacts that would give him evasion, she ignores that 20% with her Dragon Eye. And she also de-stealths anyone, which is really nice. So she extincts them, and then she gives herself evasion, so she now has a 70% chance to just not get hit. She's a really good unit. I really like Milim. She does a lot of different things with her kit, and for that, I like her for it. Politis. She is incredibly annoying. What the big things that Politis does is she reduces the enemy's CR pushes themselves. So if you have a CR pusher, she reduces it by half. She also has her S2 give her a CR boost whenever the other team makes a non-attack skill. She also AoE attacks when that happens. And then she's got some pretty nasty debuffs on her S3 and on her counterattack. So I highly recommend her. She's really good. You can put a Taiga Hall's book on her, or you can give her Abyssal Crown, because there's nothing better than AoE stunning the entire enemy team when it's not your turn. It feels good. Feels bad when it happens to you, though. So just be aware that that is a possibility. She can be just incredibly rude and ruin everything. Roy Mustang, currently in the shop. He has a damage reduction ability on him, and then he just nukes. So I'm not going to go into great detail about him, but he's pretty good. He looks like a fun unit. I would be happy with him. Tenebria. She will just put you to sleep and debuff you. She's pretty good for that. Not the best debuffer, but she's a really good debuffer. Shuna, you're never going to see. Tamarin, people think that she is the best PvE Soul Weaver because her S3 turns her into an idle mode, which allows her to increase your entire team's CR and give them attack buff, which is really good. Oh, her S3 also full cleanses. So it's pretty good. She is a really good hero. In PvE, she definitely is a strong contender. I think I like other Soul Weavers more than her, but that's just my personal opinion. No one uses Chloe. Shu has some anti-crit tech in her, but no one cares about her. Luna, this was my first 5-star. She just hasn't scaled. She's never really been top tier. She's good. She's got great plot. Her big gimmick is she has increased crit chance, and she has increased damage when her health is above 50%. And when her when her health is below 50%, she has more defense. It's sizable numbers. It's 25% of each, so she can do a lot of damage. You put her on Sigurd, so she can have good sustainability. She also has an exclusive equipment for when her S3 kills someone, she can take an extra turn. She's not bad. She single target nukes and decrease defenses, but there's better nukers than her, sadly. Rem. I wish you wouldn't see this unit. This unit is meta defining and I really hate it. So, I like the concept of Elbrus Blade. I don't like the concept of Elbrus Blade being an NA ability for a be debuffed. So, when someone dies when Rem's on the battlefield, she enters demon mode, which means that all debuffs on her immediately end. And she deals, I think, more damage because of it? Or no, it looks like it's just... Never mind. It doesn't increase her damage, but it makes it so she can't be debuffed. She also has a 20% chance to counterattack the entire team whenever one of her allies is hit, which is really frustrating. So you put Sigurd's Scythe on her, and you just let her RNG kill the enemy team. You just make her tanky, and you make her deal a shit ton of damage. Give her like 16k HP and like 4 to 5k attack, and she just eventually kills the other team. While she has her demon mode up, her S1, when it is her turn, attacks twice. And it has... what is it? Its decreased defense is no longer stopped by effect resistance, so it just goes through. It can't be resisted. So it's really good. So it decreases defense that you can't stop, and then it kills you because your defense is down. She's really good. Highly recommend her. You will get sick of playing against her because you will see her a lot. I'm not going to tell you about Sigrid because you have Sigrid and she's really good. Taiyu. He's honestly kind of a sleeper. You're probably never going to see him. He's anti-non-attack skill. He'll gain CR and Rage whenever a non-attack skill is used. And he also gains Skill Nullifier. What this does is it allows him to attack twice with his S1 and deal more damage. His S3 also resets cooldowns on the enemy team. So it's not like he's a bad unit, he's just not a great unit. He doesn't really fix any issues with the current meta, and he also doesn't do normally enough damage to be just like a Hayoung deletes tank kind of unit. So typically he's just overshadowed by other units. Crow. You might see Crow. He used to be everywhere. He has since fallen from grace. He is an incredibly tanky unit. You'll see him paired with Azorius. His big gimmick is that the lower health he has, the more his S3 will deal just true damage. So you give him Azorius, so he's taking the damage of your entire team. He eventually gets down below half health, and then he just rides his horse into an enemy and kills them. He's really good. I highly recommend him. He's a really fun tank. Yeah, that's Crow. Summer Break Charlotte. I'm probably not going to see her very often. She has dual attack mechanics that let her cleave entire teams. But you're probably not going to see her. She's not very good at the moment. Tywin, he pushes someone in the team, and he also defense breaks. He's okay. Kisei, you're probably going to say Kisei a lot. She's a very, very fast unit. her S3 will essentially just delete someone and put her into stealth. For that, she's a very good assassin. You're going to get sick of seeing her. Piera, another champion that is incredibly fast. You're going to get sick of seeing her. Her big stick is that she debuffs the enemy team and then she buffs herself. So let's see. So I believe it's this one. Her S2 will give her an extra turn. It'll also apply restrict and cannot buff to the enemy team. And then she'll use her S3, which gives herself a big barrier stealth and increased attack. It also gives escort. So massive. Escort means that she takes damage for her team. So that giant barrier that she has is now being reduced by the damage that the rest of her team takes. So she now is an initiator and a tank at the same time. So she's really good for that. She is top tier. On top of that, she has an incredibly high speed stat and can hit like 300 something speed. Have fun. Ran, also in that top tier of speed. You will see a lot of him as well. Like Piera, he has another non-attack skill that will extra turn him. He gains immunity and increased attack for his entire team. Really good. His S3 spell buffs and apply stigma and decrease defense and give himself skill nullifier. That's just so freaking much, and it's all really good stuff. He's a great unit. You'll see a lot of him. Says you're probably not going to see him. What his big stick is, his S3, when it kills someone, it AoE damages the rest of the team. His S1, if it lowers their health enough, will let him AoE attack the entire team as well. So I think he's good. He's just not seen nearly as much. He's not as good as other options. So one of my favorite units, she got me much higher in rank than I should have been. She was what got me to champion the first time. Was it champion? I forget what level. She got me really high in rank. I don't know what else to say for that. Her big stick is that she strips the enemy team and she applies restrict and decrease speed. So she just brings them to a crawl. She then has a stun, and then she has an attack that will dual attack, bring in one of her allies to attack with her. Good for control. I really like her. Flan, you might see her quite a bit. She has two non-attack skills. The first one, I don't believe any of these are strips, but her first one will grant unhealable and decrease defense to the entire enemy team and decrease their combat readiness. So that's really good control. Her S2 is just straight attack buffs for one of her teammates and increases their combat readiness. So the trick is you gain an extra turn with her S3, which debuffs, and then you boost one of your people all the way up. And then you just laugh as that one person cleaves them because he's got the two big attack buffs on him. So she's really good at that. Hawkeye, snooze. Seaside Bologna. She is the original AoE counterattacker. Her S2, whenever she gets attacked, whenever anyone on her team gets attacked, she gains 1 stack. At 5 stacks, she AoE attacks and her attack is down. This is really good because that means if an AoE hits your team of 4, you gain 4 stacks and you're about to blow. Her S1 gives her 1 stack, her S3 gives her 3 stacks. So she essentially just attacks a lot. Her S3 and her S1 also have debuffs attached to them. So the goal is that she just deals a ton of damage. She's also survivable because her S2 shares the damage that she takes. She sends the damage to the person. it's really good. She's a really good unit. You don't see her a whole lot anymore because there were a lot of counters for her. I built Pavel, a different unit, just to kill her, and he did it really well. You'll never see a Yuna. I don't think you'll see an Aria. I honestly don't remember what she does. Dizzy. You might see Dizzy every once in a while. The big thing about Dizzy is that all of her attacks are AoEs. We'll just get that out of the way. Her S3 only miss. But even on miss, it applies decreased speed, decrease attack, and decrease hit chance. So it makes your units take almost no damage and brings them down to a crawl. Her S2 will decrease the enemy combat readiness by 50%. So it's a really good debuff unit. Her S1 will also have a chance to stun all the enemy team. So things that you do with her is you basically either you run Abyssal Crown, so she's either taking 2 turns right off the bat and just bringing them to a crawl, or she's just AoE stunning on every attack. She's a really good unit. I don't see her often enough. Probably should. You can build her speed or you can build her counter. Both those builds are really good because there's nothing like stunning the entire enemy team on their turn. Ida. I don't know where they snuck the skill in, but one of Ida's big gimmicks is that whenever someone on her team uses a non-skill attack, she increases her CA, takes a turn. Then she stuns the enemy team, and she's kind of a control unit. You won't see her very often. Fairy Tale Tenebria, you also won't see very often. Her big gimmick is she goes really fast. She AoE provokes the enemy team with redirected provoke. That's before that, she strips them and then applies this. And what that does is it makes your tank much more effective. And when they do attack someone who is provoked or redirected provoked, she AoE attacks and debuffs them, which is really good. She's a pretty good unit. She does really well for control and does a lot of debuff damages. Lulika. You will never see this unit in PvP. You could use her. I use her a lot in PvE because her S3 and her S1 are both defense breakers. I use her primarily in Wyvern because she has good chances of breaking defense. Xeno, Diane, you might see her. She was the first unit that had resistance to critical hits as an AoE buff for her team, and it does pretty good things. She goes fast and then she just applies buffs to your team. None of her skills actually heal anyone though, so you're going to want to pair her with artifacts that when she uses non-attack skills that it heals, which there are 2 out there, so you really take your pick of which one you want to use. But she's pretty good. Elena, another Soul Weaver that when so she is anti-AoE. So any AoE attack that hits your team, Elena will use a counterattack. Or is it a counterattack or is it just an S2 non-attack skill? Sorry, it's a non-attack skill that will increase her CR with Magora's Tome or something like that, and it also heals your team. So that lets her cut and get to the top of the CR where she gets to use her S3, which this attack that gives her entire team invincibility, increased effect resistance. So that's pretty good. Essentially, she takes the AoE, goes to the top, makes the rest of her team, including herself, unable to take damage. She's really good. Against cleave teams, she's really annoying. Emilia. I think she is possibly the best Soul Weaver at the moment. all of her attacks, or her skill S2 and her skill S3, both cleanse her team. Her S2 will increase combat readiness of an ally and give them increased attack. So she buffs them and puts them to the top. They go do their thing. Really good PvE content. Her S3 gives your entire team a barrier and cleanses debuffs. Really good healer. Really like her. I think she's really, really good. I think she's the best healer at the moment. Alencia. You're probably never this lolly dragon. She used to be everywhere. She used to be a really big deal. She just hasn't scaled well with current meta. Her S3 AoE strips the enemies and deals pretty good damage. It also increases her defense. She is an HP unit. She scales off of her health. She's really tanky. Her S2 is she gets a chance that whenever she's hit, she gains Mind's Eye, which just increases effectiveness by 50%. It's really not that great, but it means that her S1 will attack twice. So she break someone, and then she'll clap them with her second attack, with her little snake hands. She's cute, she's fun, she does good damage. If you get her, feel free to build her. You'll have a good time with her. She might not be the most competitive, but she's a fun unit to have. Lilibet, the original Arbiter Hunter. So her S3 will extinct anyone that it hits. So essentially she just extinct kills someone, and then that's really it. That's it, yeah. Don't build her. Don't build her. Rimuru you probably already know about, but he's really anti-buff for the enemy team. If you attack anyone on his team and you have a buff, he counterattacks you, takes your buffs, and then hits you with an S3 that deals a massive amount of flat damage after the attack. So this will kill units that have set damage values that they can take, like Tempest Surin, where she can only take 50% damage, and then that's it. This gets around that, so it'll take 50% damage on the initial hit, and then the flat damage will just go through and kill her. He's very anti-tank because, yeah, it can do like a maximum of 10,000 fixed damage after his regular attack, which is crazy. And also, defense downs their team afterwards, so it's really good. It's a really good unit. You're never going to see Yufine. I love Zahak. Zahak is one of my favorite units in this game at the moment. You build him speed and you build him attack. All of his attacks have 50% chance, crit chance built into them, so he's much easier to build, which is amazing. His S3 applies a massive injury. It's great. I think he has the highest injury damage on his attack. So you can just see like an A Ravi and just bring her 25,000 max health down to like 16,000. And at that point, she's just pillow fisted and just feels so good. He also will just destroy units like Violet because his S3 also says 50% hit chance. So you get 50% crit chance and hit chance. So you're just killing Violet. I love him. He's great. He also gets short cooldowns on his abilities. So you just kill someone, then you buy your time a little bit, and then you kill someone else again pretty quickly. His S1 also does crazy damage. If you soul burn it, it like deals double damage as well. So he's a crazy damage dealer. I love him. He's great. Charles, I've talked a little bit about him to you. He used to be a really big deal. He's really fallen from grace, however, lately, often. He used to be an Elber's Blade holder. His big stick is that he scales off of the buffs that he has on himself, and he's anti-buff for the enemies. So his S3 will buff him and his team, and it'll do more damage the fewer enemies are remaining. His S1 will trigger off of the Elber's Blade, and when someone hits one of his teammates, he attacks them, decrease defense them. If they have buffs, of him getting an S2, which scales off of the amount of buffs that he has. So if it's just him, he's giving himself 2 buffs. It's increasing his damage a good amount. It then dispels buffs, all buffs that are on the enemy. So essentially, he would just, on their turn, just get angry and kill people. It was great. I loved it. It was even better when he would kill 2 people on their turn, because he'd kill the first person and then continue on. Ah, good times. Mort. He is one of the coolest units that is back. You will never see Mort. If you see someone using a Mort, don't fight them because they have the gear to make Mort good. Moving on, Senya. You might run into a Senya. She is anti-crit. She makes it so you have 50% less chance of critting her. And when you hit her and don't crit, she reflects damage back to you. Her AoE S3 will provoke and decrease hit chance, further making it likely that you don't crit her. And she'll also get counterattack out of that, so that way she'll attack you and punish you further for attacking her. She's good, she's good. You'll probably run into her. Yulha, I don't remember what she does. Not exciting. Biken, you'll probably run into a Biken here or there. Her big deal is that she goes S2, hits someone, applies a lot of bleed to them, gets a second turn, attacks that person again, detonates all the bleed stacks on them, and they just go, and they're dead. She's fun, I like her. She's a good unit. Celine. You will see her with the artifact that whenever someone has a non-attack skill, she gains CR and increased attack, because her S2 is whenever someone uses a non-skill attack, she randomly counterattacks someone on their team for a massive amount of damage. You can get exclusive equipment on her that lets her only attack the person with the highest attack on their team, which is the one that I normally do. So you can set it up where she will just guaranteed kill their main attacker. She's really good. I really like Celine. She does a really good job. She also dispels debuffs on her when she does that whole S2 thing, which is really good. Non-attack skills will actually be debuffing your team. So she'll be at peak efficiency when she claps someone, which I like. She's really good. Highly recommend building her. She opens up a lot of options. Ervelyn. You're never going to see this guy. Vildred. He has the highest speed buff for his releases. He can give plus 12 speed. So if you're a whale, you spend a lot of money on this game, you can get that and you can speed increase your team. Other than that, he does a bunch of AoE attacks and is okay. I put him as an okay. I'm sorry, he's just not that great. Vildred, oh my goodness. Vildred is, or not Vildred, Violet is meta defining. He has a innate evasion on him, and whenever he is missed, he counterattacks. So you stack him with an artifact that gets him an extra 20% evasion. I believe it gets him to like 55% evasion chance, then he counterattacks every time he's missed. So RNG says you just lose, RNG says that Violet just dies sometime. He's really good, build him if you get him. Lona. You're never going to see her, I'm not going to go into her. Command model Leica, never going to see her, no, don't worry about her. Assyria is actually a really good unit that you probably won't see in PvP, but you could use really well in PvE. Also sometimes in PvP as well. Her S2, you target one of your allies and you refresh all of their cooldowns. So this is if you're really tired of waiting with Dark Corvus, you just have her go and say, hey, your cooldown's refreshed. Kill them. So she's really good for that. Her S3 also applies like a strip, cannot buff and decrease defense, so you just set someone up for deletion with her. She's really good. I highly recommend her for that. Landy. Landy is top tier. You will see a lot of her. So her S3 gives increased speed to her entire team, which means that they just go fast. It also boosts her entire team CR, so they go faster. Her S3 also refreshes how many buffs you have on your team. On top of that, it ignores armor when it attacks, and every time that she goes, she increases her own attack. So she will just lap you with her team, continuously refresh her S3, and just nuke you into oblivion. She's a great unit, 10 out of 10. Pavel. Pavel's big gimmick is that he will soul burn his S2 that does damage and just AoE nukes your team, and then he'll S3 and kill someone. He's really good. I really like him. He does a lot of damage. He's just damage though. It's a lot of damage. Bazaar. You probably won't see him anymore, but there was a time where he was the strongest unit. You could put book on him so that way he could soul burn, making his S3 just ignore effect resistance. He just pushes the enemy team down and strips them of all their buffs and makes it so they can't buff. And then your team just kills them. He's really good. He was really good. There's a lot of counters to him now. He used to be really good. Ludwig. If he has invincibility on him, he just kills the enemy team. He gives himself invincibility. He's good. Ram, you'll never see Ram. Don't worry about Ram. Vivian. PvE nearly exclusive. You might see her PvP rare. She gives herself greater attack buff and the rest of her team attack buff for 3 turns. That's a really big number for attack buff. Normally it's only ever a 2. Her S2, whenever it kills someone, it triggers again. So if you are hitting a team that has varying health pools, you can have it trigger 3 times. It's really annoying when that happens, because it kills your weakest health guy, triggers again. Kills another guy, triggers a third. When it works well, it works really well, and it makes you feel like a god, but most of the time it just doesn't work well. Destina, really good healer. She recently got a buff. She's just really good. That's all I have to say about her. Ray, he is a trash healer. Don't build Ray. Roana, if you're having an issue with people just counterattacking you or attacking out of active, Roana is your solution. Her S2 is whenever someone attacks outside of their activation or makes an extra attack on their activation, she heals your entire team and CR boosts your entire team. She has great health stats and defensive stats. She also puts revive on your entire team. She is really strong, really annoying. She's really good. You don't see her a whole lot anymore though, but highly recommend. I'll be honest, I don't know what Sharon does, and I never see her, so... Conqueror Lilius. So we are now entering our MLs. Man, they're really, really good. So Conqueror Lilius has 2 non-attack skills. Her first non-attack skill will strip and debuff the enemies and give vigor, which is a really strong buff to all of her allies. Turn where she will redirected provoke and give a barrier to her strongest unit. Her S1 is also a dual attack enabler, so she attacks and pulls another unit. So you'll see her at 300 speed just debuffing her team down and then just clapping you. She is really, really good. You'll see her a lot. Essentially, anyone who owns her will use her. Judge Kisei has massive plot. You won't really see her very a great kit, but she just doesn't do enough anymore. Her S3, which you can soul burn and take an extra turn, will reset their cooldowns by 3 turns if it goes well, and it'll grant her damage nullifier. If you soul burn it, you can then go into at her S2, which will AoE attack the enemy team a second time and deal good damage. It's not that she has a bad kit, it's that her kit's just not really relevant. She also just doesn't do enough damage, which is unfortunate. Lionheart Sirmia. So, I really like Lionheart Sirmia. Her kit is pretty cool. Her S2 is whenever an extra attack is made, that's a counter attack or a dual attack or anything like that. She gains increased defense and increased effect resistance and wipes all the debuffs on her. She then gains a bunch of fighting spirit, and her fighting spirit lets her use her S3, which will be a massively one-shots the vast majority of things on the other team. And then she gets an extra turn where she uses her S1, gaining more fighting spirit and more speed, and just starts lapping. She's a really good unit. I really like her. She's a lot of fun. Little Queen Charlotte. She is a unit that when she gets hit, she increases her CR, and she spends her S3 to just nuke 1 unit. If it's a dark unit, it deals AoE damage to the rest of the enemy team. Probably won't see her too often. A well-built one is a problem, but she's not the best unit out there at the moment. Ambitious Taiwan. He used to be part of the Golden Boys, and he used to be a massive problem because whenever he is debuffed, he removes 1 debuff from the rest of his team. That's pretty good. His S3 is also an AoE stun and speed down. It's pretty good. He's really good for a tanky team. I think he also scales off of HP if I'm remembering correctly. Bellion. You give her Elbrus Blade because her S1 just AoE attacks and she just does a lot of damage. Her S3 will provoke the entire team to attack her and decrease their combat readiness and increase her defense a lot. So she is really strong in that regard. Her S2 also makes it so they can't gain souls, so there's no soul burning against her. Yeah, it's really impressive. Her S1 also has a chance to trigger a second attack, so that second attack also applies a bunch of debuffs. So it'll be decreased speed and decreased hit chance. She's really good. I hate fighting her. She's a lot of fun to use. Last Rider Crow, another one of the Golden Boys. Whenever he is hit by an AoE, he gives a barrier to his entire team. He then rides his non-critting horse into the entirety of the enemy team and just slowly kills them. He's really good. I do. Specimen Says, my favorite bad good unit. So his whole gimmick is if anyone is stunned, his S3 says they're just dead and they can't come back. His S2 is an AoE stun, his S1 is a regular stun. So if anyone on the other team is stunned, they're dead. The rest of this team is also stunned. He'll eventually kill them. He's really good in the right situations. Because as you've noticed, a lot of people are just like, no debuffs today. So there's a lot of counters for him. If they don't have counters for him, he's just going to kill him, and that feels good. Spirit Eye Celine. Oh, I wish I would have gotten this unit. She is really good. Her S3 gives immortality to her entire team and possession to her. Lets her counterattack whenever she suffers a critical hit. She also heals when she attacks. Her S2, or sorry, let me stick to her S3. Her S3 also revives all of her allies that have died. So that's really, really annoying. She's really good defensively for that. Her S2 gets the maximum amount of damage that she can take, so you have to attack her at least twice in order to kill her. You put Dust Devil on her, and she just pops off. She's a really good unit. I really like her. She's fun because she counterattacks when she's crit, and then she Dust Devils, so she just nukes someone twice and is full health again. Really annoying, really good. Papa John's. I don't know what Commander Pavel does. He's new. I'm assuming he's Faithless Litica. She sets someone's abilities back to cooldown, and she sets their CR to 0. She's fun. She's good. She also boosts her team. You'll never see her again because she's just not as good as other units. Sage Ball. He's very survivable, and then he just nukes and kills someone, and his S1s will sleep 2 targets a turn. He's really good. He's really annoying. You'll hate him. Silver Blade Araminta. She is Specimen Says' favorite ally. On her. It's really good on her. Her S3 will come down as a giant meteor, stun their entire team. And then it also her S2 is whenever she S1 someone and they get burned, she makes a second attack that hits the entire team. So both of those will trigger Abyssal Crown and just spread the stuns like a sickness. She's really good. She's really fun. Also, whenever she does an AoE, she boosts herself up. Whenever an ally hits an AoE, it boosts her up. So to strip them with one of your units, she goes to the top of the CR, she hits them with an AoE stun nuke, and then just kind of walks in and is like, hey, 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 how's it going? That guy's dead. Hey, 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 how's it going? That guy's dead. So that combo is really good. She's also just a really good control unit if you have other units who can just nuke. For example, Sirmia, the red Sirmia, you stun them with Araminta, and then you have Sirmia just slowly kill them. It's really strong. Araminta is a really strong unit. Solitaria of the Snow, you don't care. Sylvan Sage, you don't care. Desert Jewel Bazaar, he boosts and cleanses his teammates. You won't see him very often. Maid Chloe, incredibly annoying. You will see a lot of her. Her S2 is just whenever it's her turn, she heals her team a lot just for having a turn. Her S3 will full revive her team, put the revive buff on whoever was alive ahead of time, and give them increased attack. Her S1 is also a stun for funsies. She's pretty good. I actually really like her. She does a lot. Rule of Light. Her S3 brings someone back from the dead at full health and gives them invincibility so they can't be killed. She's incredibly tanky on top of that. She's just a really good unit. Alright, into our 5-star MLs. We have a Robbie. I talked to you about her a little bit before. The big thing about her is that her S2 is whenever she gets hit, she increases her CR, and then she heals. Scales off of her max HP, so she just damage and then she kills someone because she's a jerk. I really like her. I think A. Robbie is a great character. 10 out of 10. Best character. Dark Corvus, you already know about him. Designer a little bit. You might see her on occasion. She says, "Oh, you debuffed my team. I'm just going to jump up with CR and then cleanse my team and kill you." She's pretty good. I say just okay, actually. You won't see her very often. Martial artist Ken. He used to be the best character. His whole gimmick is if you crit him, he looks at you in disgust and kills you. But nowadays, people just look at him and say, "We don't crit, so you're going to die." We also just have uncounterable attacks, so you just don't kill us. So yeah, he used to be really good. There's just far too many counters for him nowadays. You'd put Sigurd's Scythe on him and just watch as he just counters and slowly kills their entire team. Every once in a while, you still have those moments, and it feels really good, but you won't see him as much as you used to see him. Theater Cowrick. He was, on release, the most disappointing 5-star unit. He is now incredibly strong and really good. His S3 will full cleanse his entire team and then put him back halfway in the CR pool. He also will give his team immunity and attack buff. His S2, which will then be following it, will strip an enemy, apply attack down, and nuke the crap out of them. His S1, then, whenever he goes again, because he'll eventually get there again, because he scales off of health, which is great for him. His S1 increases his and pushes an ally. I like to build him as counter, so that way when people attack him, he increases his and an ally's CR, so 2 people get to go faster. It's really good. He's really good. He deals a lot of damage. He cleanses. Oh, I forgot. The big thing on him is that when he has his S3 available and he's debuffed, it reduces all those debuffs turns by 1. The cool thing about that is that all stuns are always 1. So if he's ever stunned, he's never stunned. It's really good. He's very good at counter. Straws. You probably won't see him very often, but Straws is a really good unit. His S3 just says whoever has the most HP on the other team is dead. And that's Straws. Fallen Cecilia, possibly the best tank in the game from release and will forever be the best tank in the game. Starts the game with barrier on her and her team, scales off of her max HP, and then her S3 will give everyone on her team skill nullifier, reducing damage further. Every time she takes a turn, she to the lowest health unit. Really good. Her S1 is 100% provoke, so every turn she's just saying, no, that guy has to attack me instead of someone good. Incredibly good. You pair her with an Aureus and she's now taking damage for the entire team as on top of that, and she's just incredibly good. Arbiter Vildred, you will see this guy literally everywhere. Everyone walks their dog and pulls out an Arbiter Vildred and throws it at you. His whole gimmick is he dies, takes a turn, and kills your entire team. He's really annoying. I hate him. He's so good. Closer Charles. So Old Man Charles had to get older and fall out of a helicopter. That is Closer Charles. His whole gimmick is someone on the other team gets hurt, and Closer Charles is like, I'm interested, and he goes to max CR. He then AoE drops out of a helicopter, hits everyone on the opposing team, increasing his team's CR and giving them attack buff. He then says, little Jimmy over there, he's wounded. My S1 will now trigger extra hard on him and kill him. You won't see him very often. He's a very selective pick. You really have to for him, unfortunately. He doesn't really do anything spectacular. Remnant Violet. This is possibly one of my favorite and edgiest characters in the game. He starts with evasion, and then you put another unit, or not another unit, you put an artifact on him that gives him even more evasion, so he has 70% chance just to get missed, and then he nukes someone. His S3 basically just one-shots anyone, and if he's attacked 5 times with, or sorry, not if he's attacked, if he's missed 5 times, his S3 triggers. So typically, you just see him slowly kill people. He's really good. I really like him. There's a lot of counters in the game for him right now because there's a lot of people that are just like, yeah, I have anti-evasion tech. And then he dies. He's also really gear intensive. You'll typically see him with lifesteal, so those 5 attacks that do miss him still won't kill him because he'll just lifesteal up. I love him. He's great. When he works really well. When he doesn't work very well, he's just dead, though. Briar Witch Assyria. You will never see this unit, which is unfortunate because she's incredibly good. Her S3 is an AoE attack that full strips and debuffs the enemy team. Her S2 gives her increased hit chance. So she just starts with, I think it's 35 increased hit chance. You can further put on other relics that increase her hit chance even further. So she is one of the most likely units to hit and then debuff units. She's a direct counter to Remnant Violet that we just looked at. She's also a big counter for other units. When she would die, like Kayron, she gains immortality. She's a pretty good unit. She's a really good stripper. She's fun. She does well. You'll never see her though. Operator Sigrid, she plays with the idea that if you have a barrier, she's going to kill you. So her S3 will push you back. If they have a barrier, then they cannot resist the pushback. Her S2 says if they have a barrier, you're just dead. You'll probably see her on occasion. Pirate Captain Flan, I don't remember what she does. I don't think she's that spectacular. Archdemon's Shadow. This is ML essentially. She has plot. She does a lot of damage. Her S2 has a damage reduction, and her basic skill, when she looks at someone, she can seal their passive abilities. So against the proper team, she can be crazy strong and super annoying. Every time she attacks, she gains a focus. When she gets 5 focus, she can use her S3. And when that happens, she AoE nukes the enemy team and then takes another turn. Built properly and with a good team, she's really, really strong. Good unit. Spectre Tenebria. So she is permanently stealthed from her S2, but not with the buff, so it can't be dispelled. She gets stronger for more units that die. That includes allies. Her S3 will stun someone. Her S1 cannot be countered. She is a very good unit. I really like Spectre Tenebria. Top model Luluka. So her whole gimmick is she goes fast. She gains, is it just attack buff? Yeah, just attack buff. And an extra turn. And then she kills someone and goes invisible. She's really good. She kills one person, goes invisible, and eventually kills another person. Blood Moon Haste is a direct arbiter counter. His whole gimmick is if anyone revives on the enemy team, his entire team gets a barrier that is just dummy thick, making them unkillable. He's also Soul Weaver, so he heals a lot. He's actually